Okay, so we're going to shift gears entirely now and really take a look at the power of Facebook advertising. So we have been running a lot more direct response and branding campaigns through Facebook because obviously it's a huge medium. It has an absolutely mind-boggling number of users and page views, and we're actually going to walk through how we use Facebook successfully. So it can be daunting, but you really can use Facebook and actually turn a profit, actually see that direct response power. We're going to walk through a specific example of this. So what makes Facebook so impressive beyond the pure reach of it is the targeting ability is amazing. We're going to walk through how you can target it, but as a little bit of an aside, one of the big things to understand and what makes Facebook challenging is it is fundamentally different from what you would find with search engine marketing, with using AdWords and advertising on Google. And that has to do with intent. So when somebody searches on Google and you have an ad that pops up, that is somebody that is specifically seeking out information. So the difference number one on Facebook is they aren't showing intent for your product or service. So you need to approach advertising fundamentally in a different way. You cannot apply what works on Google and ads and Microsoft and apply that to Facebook. You have to really start fresh and take a step back. The second thing is that people are on Facebook to be on Facebook. When you go to Google, you're actually going on Google to be connected with another resource and immediately leave Google. So hitting an ad is a very much a part, an integrated, streamlined part of what your experience is. Well, on Facebook, you're specifically not leaving. You're going there to look at pictures and to post updates and not necessarily click an ad and be taken away from that environment. So we're going to talk about ways that we're going to address these two issues, that there is not intent, people are not actively searching for your product and service, and they don't necessarily want to be connected with information, right? And those are two really challenging things to get around. Luckily, the way we get around it is we have the ability to do some pretty amazing targeting via Facebook's advertising system. So our example here we're going to use is a product called Noxage. They're a client of ours, and this is a workout-related product. You know, it gets you buff after you work out. Now, Noxage actually was smart enough to go, and they actually signed the Situation character from the Jersey Shore on MTV to be their spokesperson. We're going to use this as sort of the theme throughout. So this is a screenshot of what you see inside of Facebook's advertising system for those of you that have seen this. And we're going to use an example of how we would use Facebook to hyper-target and to ultimately sell this direct response product. I want people to purchase this Noxage product. So we're going to start here, and this is the way the targeting works. We're going to originally select people in the United States. And I'm specifically going to select, let's see if we go over here. So I'm specifically going to select people that are, just to show off the targeting, that are exactly 23 years old, okay? So these are only people on Facebook in the United States that are exactly 23 years old. And you're going to see that yields me 5.3 million people that are 23 in the United States. That's pretty amazing. Then we're going to go back and we're going to select that they are men, and not surprisingly, we're going to see that number drop about in half to 2.5 million people that are males that are exactly 23 years old. Now we're going to go and enter some interest. That's an example of the type of targeting here. And I don't know, for those of you that watch the Jersey Shore, we're going to enter the interest actually being the show Jersey Shore, the favorite activity of the Jersey Shore folks, gym, tanning, and laundry. Let's throw in Gold's Gym as an interest and working out as an interest as well. Okay, and now this is going to significantly drop down our 2.5 million people, and we're going to end up with 152,000 people. And this is a really amazing number. 152,000 individual people on Facebook in the United States that are exactly 23 years old, that are men, and that specifically like, and we'll talk about where this like comes from, the Jersey Shore gym, tan, laundry, Gold's Gym, or working out. As a funny aside, it turns out that is exactly the number of 23-year-old men in New Jersey. So now, all kidding aside, so where did they get these numbers? You know, where did these 152,000 people, where did these interests get discerned by Facebook? So there's actually a couple of different places, and most people don't really realize these. We're going to look at an article on Men's Health here. It's the chin-up plan for every man, and you can see that almost ubiquitous like button that you've seen really kind of explode all across the internet over the past year or so. If you click this like button, what you're really doing is feeding Facebook with the information that this kind of content, in this case, chin up, men's health, workout, etc., is content that is of interest to you. And they're actually going to use this to target ads like this Knox Edge ad to you. The second way that most people do know is that you can actually specifically in your Facebook profile enter your activities and interests. And in this case, had you explicitly entered gym, tan, laundry, Jersey Shore, etc. as an interest, then that would be a very straightforward way to target. But most people aren't really entering that many interests. So that's why Facebook rolled out this product. And you can see the final way, which is pretty interesting, is that they'll actually use Facebook status updates, not even likes and not even activities or interests, to also help target ads. So in this example here, we have reference to Jersey Shore in this situation. That is something that could feed Facebook's knowledge of your interests and then later allow us to target an ad for Knox Edge to you. So again, this is an example. Because we were able to get so specific, we can do really interesting things with the advertising. We can see here, instead of just an ad that says get ripped like the situation, we can actually say, hey, 23-year-old. Now, that's a little bit extreme, but the point is that we're able to really, really get targeted. We could advertise to people only whose birthday it is. And there's about 500,000 people a day whose birthday it is, and to say happy birthday by Knox Edge. So again, the power of this targeting gets interesting, and you're going to get a lot more eyeballs straying down to your ad if you do something like, hey, 23-year-old to people that are 23. Now, it turns out, they want to advertise to everyone that's 18 to 30, so we can have 13 different ads for people 18, 19, 20, and so forth. So, and have them feel targeted to all of them. So the other thing that's going to be really important, this goes back, everything is going to fall back to testing, you're going to find, is to look at different images here. Now, these are all quite stunning images of the situation. The important thing, some of these may work better than others. And we're actually going to talk, though, about the importance of not necessarily finding one winner of these that lasts forever, but the actual importance of keeping things fresh and mixing them up. So one of the biggest issues that you find is that things get stale really quickly, that the click-through rate of ads really falls off a cliff very quickly, because you're reaching, again, just 23-year-olds who like this. It's a really defined group. If you're showing them the same image day after day, obviously interest is going to wane. We can sell the same product, but we at least need to mix up the ads. So again, we're going to, these all pretty much do the same thing in my mind, but they are visually different. And for people that log into their Facebook account every single day, you're going to see a lot of, there's going to be a drop-off if you just have the same image showing every day. So this is kind of just a mock-up graph to get the point across, to sort of illustrate this drop-off, but it's important to note here. So the point here is that day after day, the same ad is getting a lower and lower click-through rate because, again, you're reaching the same crowd. What you're seeing here is even though we're advertising the same thing week after week after week, just by refreshing the creative, the image, the title, etc., we're going to be able to avoid that really precipitous drop-off in click-through rate. Okay, so to kind of address that earlier question of the challenges of Facebook advertising, the other challenge is, people don't want to leave Facebook, and so when you have an ad, where do you want to send this user? So we're going to switch pop culture gears here and use Glee as an example. So you have a couple of places you can send users. We can send users directly to a Facebook fan page. So in this case, the ad for, I pick my demographic, and the ad for Glee goes to just the Glee fan page. The problem is that for most people, that most of our clients and most people that we encounter, you're not satisfied just with driving fans. For Coca-Cola, they have millions of fans. That can be a good solution. You're probably selling something. You're looking for a lead or a sale. So to send people to a fan page and hope that people click that they like your brand, probably don't even know what that's worth, and I don't want to spend a lot of money doing that. So that's not a great option. The second option is to just remove people completely from the site and send them over to your website. So this has the advantage, of course, of you control the experience on the website, and are at a place where they they're doing what you want to do. The problem is that it's really off-putting for a user to be just thrown away from the Facebook experience and onto a website. A lot of times you're going to see a really high bounce rate for that, or people just immediately closing that tab that pops open. So the third option, and the option that we're finding is really successful for our clients, that we're doing a lot with when we roll out social media advertising for our clients, is to actually kind of come up with this interim step. This interim step here for Glee would be, we have an action. We actually want people to buy the Glee albums, but we don't just want to throw them off the site from the ad. So we're going to create an interim experience, kind of a halfway point, which is a page that kind of looks like a web page, but it exists still within Facebook. So we're not throwing them out of Facebook yet, and I'm actually giving them the ability to click the Buy It Now button and sort of start that first step of the process of a direct response of purchasing. Now, when you actually click Buy Now at that point, it's going to take you off to the shopping cart on your website. But what we've done here is we've created a slightly better transition of an experience from Facebook to a page where your first step of taking an outside action is still within Facebook, and then you complete the transaction or the rest of the experience on your own website, because actually you can't do this completely within Facebook. So this is really, this sort of answers the question of how do we handle that issue of people, they go to Google to connect with other information. They don't go to Facebook to necessarily leave. And this is a method that we find very successful to get around this sort of built-in limitation.